Crimson Bride, Chapter 8. Broken hearts make bad business partners. On that evening, when Mick got back to his apartment building, he noticed something was off. He looked up to find his apartment light was on. Even with a mild head trauma, he knew that he didn't leave it on when he left to talk to Mr. Jenkins. He thought it might be a good idea to go up the fire escape, in case the intruder was still there. He made his way up the rusty ladder, trying to think of how to deal with it. He thought, who might have wanted to break in? Have they taken anything? Are they still there? Questions arising filled him with anxiety. Thinking about the injury he acquired from the recent incident at Mr. Jenkins' house, Mick knew he was in no shape to put up a fight. And if they had come to harm him, he had no chance in a gunfight, since his own firearm was still under the sofa. Then again, he was a former lance corporal in the military police, and got into his fair share of fistfights and bar brawls, with glass bottle scars to prove it. That training never went away. Shame the scars didn't either. He slowly made his way up the fire escape. His questions of who was raiding his apartment would soon be answered. He looked into his living room window and saw nothing out of place. Only there was a figure sitting on his sofa. It was not light enough to see the intruder's face. His eyes lit up with the reflection of the phone screen. Mick was pissed, wondering what intruder would have the nerve to be so relaxed. Or could it be that someone wanted to murder his sorry ass? Mick crept in as quietly as he could, picking up a beer bottle and placed it in his pocket, and made himself known. "Don't move," shouted Mick, pointing the bottle in his pocket, in the pretense that it was a gun. "You better give me a damn good reason not to shoot you, buddy. Hands up, now! What do you want?" The mysterious intruder sprang to their feet, arms raised. It appeared to be a woman from her build, raven black hair peeking out from under the corners of a clover-green hood that covered her face. A mild flowery scent of perfume hung in the air, mixing with the odour of stubborn smokes and stale beer. Mick had a feeling he knew this person, someone familiar, but he couldn't quite put a finger on it. And then she spoke. "I don't think you want to do that, Mickey," said a soft, feminine voice. Mick's mind exploded. He knew who this intruder was. A mixture of both wonderful and horrible memories began to flood his mind. His emotions were conflicting between love and hate, sorrow and happiness. He dropped the beer bottle. He was unable to speak for a moment, his throat blocked. Then he finally said, "Selina?" in a tone of disbelief. "What are you doing here?" As he looked upon her face, he was confused. On the one hand, he was pleased to see her, and yet at the same time despised her. "I need your help. A job, actually," she said, wandering over to his fridge, helping herself to his supply of beer. "I'm broke, hon." She took a long swig of the bottle, like a woman who needs alcohol, like a vampire who needs blood. "Why me? Why after all this time?" he said, in a tone of rage that was visible on his face. "Why can't your hipster boyfriend help you? You know, the one you ran away with?" He's not in the picture anymore," she said hesitantly, finishing off the beer and throwing it into the bin like a basketball into a hoop. "What happened?" Mick inquired. "Did he spend all the money you stole from me on weed and guitar strings, then discard you like you did me?" "Look, I'm sorry about that. I wasn't myself. It was one of my—" She took a short pause. "Episodes," she said, trying to defend herself. Not that Mick was much better. "Don't!" Mick snapped. "Don't you dare blame your running out on me on an illness." His face flushed red with anger. He knew he didn't help the relationship much with his PTSD, but he never used it as an excuse for him generally being an ass. Selina was a little more complicated than that. I was never enough, shouted Mick. Sure, we were happy for a long time. But you changed. You wanted more validation, spending hours on your phone, caring more about what strangers thought of you on your social media posts, the opinions of your superficial friends, than you did about me. Mick's heart began to break again, remembering the memories of those days. You weren't there for me when I needed you. You latched onto some beatnik and left. I was always there for you, Selina snapped back. She frowned, her hands clenched. When you came back from Afghanistan, you were a mess. You were needy. You smothered me to the point where I couldn't hardly breathe. Paranoid, threatening to kill yourself if I left you, screaming in your sleep, having breakdowns in public. You think that was easy? I was going through it hard too, Mickey. You just simply weren't the man I fell in love with when you came back. I ran because I was scared of you. It hit him then. Something sank in his stomach. Shame filled him. He didn't expect it. Why should he? Hearing her say it made him realize what a monster he was then. But he was different now. Trying to catch a break. Yes, he was still a dickhead, but he was trying to change that, even if he wasn't doing too well at it. He felt uncomfortable to the point he locked his arms. Selina strolled over to where he was standing by the window. I hear you're trying to start a paranormal TV show, she said, as she removed her hooded jacket to reveal her typical outfit that Mick was very familiar with, a top so tight that it seemed to struggle to fit even such a tiny frame. Then lit a cigarette she kept in the pocket of her slightly worn navy blue jeans. Her perfume got stronger as she got closer to Mick. He was intoxicated by the comforting, familiar smell. Yet he did not know it. He wouldn't. Who told you? He frowned suspiciously, keeping his arms crossed. Well, I have my sources, she said with a half smile, smoking away and filling up the apartment with a small lingering cloud. I hear whispers. Everyone thinks you're crazy or a con artist like those other poltergeist hunters, she said. That's what you're here for. You want to be in on it, don't you? Mick said. Yes. I know you still care for me. Look, Mickey, I need the money, and you need a cameraman. Or woman, in my case. I'm the best you're gonna get, and you know it. So what do you say? Truce? She said, smiling and holding out a soft, hastily manicured hand to seal the deal. Fine. But when this is done, you get paid, and then you get the hell out of my life. For good this time, he said sternly. Mick accepted the deal, but he did not shake her hand. Fine by me? Selina smiled sarcastically. She put the remains of a cigarette out on his windowsill, kissed him on the cheek in a taunting, cheeky sort of way. Then she strolled out of his apartment. Mick would never admit it, but no matter how much he told himself he hated Selina deep down, he knew his heart would always belong to her. He knew he was a real mess when they were together. She tried her best. Mick downed a shot of whiskey. He needed it. He may have had mixed feelings about the new camera woman, but at least he had one. Okay, he thought to himself. That's the camera woman sorted. Now he needed to find a co-host, then talk to Bill. Bill was an old army buddy who was also a small-time TV producer. He could get the show up and running, but it wasn't going to be easy. Mick had tried and failed to get shows like this going many times in the past. In fact, he and Bill had a blazing row the last time Mick had tried to pitch something, ending in Mick getting a broken nose. Mick had called all the people he knew that might be interested, but evidently he had burned all those bridges in his innumerable previous failed shows. He was running out of options and money. Mick knew he needed a co-host, someone who would be just as good as him on camera. He was, after all, a a great host in that one paranormal show he got aired. Maybe I need a better looking one too, he thought to himself with a sly smile. That would have to be a pipe dream, he thought. He needed a co-host, and fast. Anyone would do at this point.